Hey friends, it's Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Zambia. Welcome to another episode of Cabin Fever. This week I'm super stoked because the gentleman that I get to interview today is someone that shared a super special class with me in New Zealand just back in November. So I think he's to your left. He's over there.
Yeah, I'm unsure actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're seeing, but this is my good friend Jan Niemand. Jan is actually from South Africa. He is an awesome coach. So both of us are MBIT coaches and trainers. It's a field called multiple brain integration techniques. If you're curious about that, you can actually go back to the very first episode of this. I interviewed Dr. Suzanne Henwood, who she was actually the one that has mentored Jan and I, and she's the one that taught the class for us to become teachers of the project. Hey, McKenna, thanks for joining us. Cool, we got people from Portland, Oregon. We already have someone from Indonesia commenting. Sweet, we got India, Kansas. Awesome, well, welcome everyone. So the idea of this particular project that we're doing on Zambia is that we know, especially during this time, we need to support you more than just as hairdressers. And also, we also understand that there's a lot of you, especially through our YouTube channel, that you're not even hairdressers. You just enjoy watching our hair videos. So we wanted to provide something through this particular project that was more about health from just a mental, emotional, physical standpoint. And so as I started to think about different guests, I really thought about Jan, because one of the things that Jan is a specialist in, and he's a coach in, is this thing called Innergetics. And I'll let him explain more what Innergetics is. But one night we all went, and after our class, we were sitting on the beach and just having dinner and stuff. It was super cool. And he was explaining the principles of this concept of energetics as it pertains to how we eat and what it teaches us about our life, just in the choices of how we eat. And especially, like, he showed me some before and after pictures of his journey. And so I just thought, man, what a perfect time to talk about food choices, because I know even for myself, like, I'm a pretty healthy dude, but I've made some pretty maybe unhealthy choices with my dietary habits lately, just to kind of self-soothe. But I think Jan's going to kind of tell us a different perspective about that too. So cool. We've got Spain in the house, Tennessee, St. Louis, Florida, North Dakota, Fort Lauderdale, Nebraska, New Mexico. Hey, we do have some friends from South Africa. Very cool. So Jan is actually in South Africa. Awesome. Well, I hope you all are safe and healthy out there. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to let Jan kind of introduce himself, kind of tell us a little bit about the concept of energetics and everything. But, you know, throughout the broadcast, please type in your questions. Let us know what you'd like to learn today too.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Andrew. Absolutely stoked being here. Thanks for having me.
I'm stoked too, man. Like, it's been way too long since I saw your face, so I was so happy to have you on here.
Brilliant. And I just need to add that when we were on the beach in New Zealand, there were copious amounts of wine as well. So the conversation flowed beautifully.
What's a night on the beach without a glass of wine, right?
Well, just a night on the beach then. But I think what one of the most beautiful concepts about energetics is the people that developed the whole thing, and I seriously want to we'll get to them a little bit later on. Is Shirley Billigmeyer. And she's the original holder of this concept of energetics, and I just want to give a huge shout out to her, because without her, we probably wouldn't have this concept packaged as beautifully as it was. So you can just check out her book if you want to, Inner Eating. Brilliant stuff, really brilliant stuff. And then obviously a shout out to Suzanne. I love you. We miss you. You were literally sitting on the other side of the world. So hope you're listening in.
Yeah.
And then you can also check out the MBIT concept and M-braining. You probably mentioned the book M-braining, using your multiple brains to do cool stuff. That's
Yeah,
the subheading. Very intentional by Grant. Grant Susulu. He's unfortunately passed away, but his legacy lives on.
for sure.
So this whole concept is brilliant, because I really struggled with diets. Restrictive diets, in the sense of calorie counting and making
Mm,
sure you eat the right food, and managing the guilt and the shame and the horror when you don't. It's really it's a thing to manage, um, and some people just seem to eat beautifully, and then they cheat eat, and it's they just don't put on any weight. And then there are other people that they just look in the direction of bread, and you already hear the stretch marks forming. And it's hilarious. You can't work with these individual responses. And I had been searching for a solution to my own, um, let's call it my own relationship with my body weight,
mm,
and ultimately the relationship with my food, um, because uh, there was a direct correlation between what was happening with my body weight and size and the stuff I was going through in my
mm,
life. For just to give you an idea, at the time that I ballooned, quite literally, my grandmother had passed away, and there was some serious health issues on my father's side, and it really became quite a lot. So I did the very sensible thing, and I coped with food. So and when I say sensible, it's quite prevalent. We cope with the stressors and the stuff and the tough reality of life by hazing it over with food. And it's
mm.
it's a very creative coping mechanism if you think about it. I mean, it's your own little plug of serotonin. Just put something in, chew, makes you feel fantastic, swallow, and then serotonin boost, and you go, oh, my life isn't as bad as it is. Let us
Right.
carry on. You see,
Yeah,
the
how many of
problem
you
is,
can actually kind of relate already? Like, just give us a yes in the comments or a thumbs up there. This is all
mm,
stuff I think we can kind of like you were saying. Like, there are some people that I'm pretty fortunate. I can not be super
mm.
conscious with my food choices and kind of get away with it for the most part. I noticed
Yeah, we
once I
hate
hit about
people like
yeah,
you.
I
We
noticed once
do.
I
We
hit
hate
about like
you.
mid 30s, I started to like it's like right at the front of my lower belly that shows it now. Like I can stay like super skinny up here, but if I definitely um, eat a little whatever, it shows up for me now a little bit. But yeah, it's interesting. Like definitely, there's such a relationship that I feel like I have with food, as far as like you said, that release of um, what was it, the serotonin, like especially a piece of chocolate or something. If I'm like feeling down, I just immediately I'm like, oh, some chocolate sounds so good. And there is that moment like when I'm eating it that I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually feel really good right now.
It really makes you feel better. It's your own little happy hormone pump, eh?
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. Jennifer says like I feel like I'm going through the freshman 15. So funny. Sorry, I didn't mean
Uh,
to interrupt. Keep going, buddy.
no, please, please interrupt me. Um, so here's the thing. Um, Now we've got this little pump going, and it's designed beautifully. Food is supposed to be delicious. It's supposed to be this punctuated event of sensory
Mm,
stimulation and this beautiful release and that sense of satisfaction. That eating is beautiful. I mean, the fact that we've got all these different tastes and combinations, and we've got an entire industry built on chefing and delighting your taste buds. It shows you that it's not just putting something in your mouth
sure.
and and just burning the calories. It's not about that. But we kind of use this as a coping mechanism, right?
Mhm.
And now there's an entire dieting industry, and I'm not buzzing or killing the entire health industry. On the contrary,
Sure.
but there's a big crisis that we get this sense of I'm not making it. I want to take control of my weight and I want to lose a few pounds and whatever. And all of a sudden I'm confronted with these rules and don't eat sugar because it causes low level inflammation. And then you go, okay, so sugar is out. And
Mhm.
then you go, okay, so coffee is coffee bad now? So we've got this one study going,
Right.
yeah, lay off the coffee. And then the
Hmm.
next study goes, no, it saves us from, and then and you start getting a little panicky because you go, what must I do now?
Yeah.
uh, I'm not sure, are eggs horribly bad for my heart, or is it extremely good for my liver? And it turns into this swamp of info overload,
Yeah.
and you're turning into an anxiety ball, because now I've got this rule book that don't eat that, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, and it turns into this little treadmill of going. Oh, then I fell off. And the crisis, if you fall off, guilt and shame starts taking hold, and we never get back on, do we?
Hmm.
Not really. It's always this sense of, you know what, I'll start Monday. And then Monday comes along, and then life happens, and then you go, you know what? It's not the best week to start, so let's aim for next week Monday, because you can't start on a Tuesday. That's weird. Um, yeah, you've got these little psychological
I
games
just
going.
ate a huge chocolate cake last night. There's no way in hell I can start a diet the next day. I mean,
Uh,
I totally
oh,
blew it.
come on. Exactly. But that's the thing. You blew it. You blew what? This
Right.
sense of, I have to adhere to this structure, which is also terribly confusing. So, what energetics actually advocates is, don't chuck the science of food. We will get to the nutrition and the good stuff. That will happen. Brilliant, beautiful. However, the ultimate choice you have been given in life is when to eat or not.
Hmm.
Fooding, or eating, as we generally call it, is the ultimate choice. It's the ultimate contact point of your inner, this little tube. We're basically just elongated donuts with arms and legs detached. It's the ultimate
Stuff
contact
just
of the
falls
inner
through the
donut.
middle there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. A few chemicals squirted in
Yeah.
the middle there, and a few hormones present. But no, we're basically donuts with legs. So you put in food there, and that's the ultimate contact point of your inner self with the outer world.
Hmm.
It's actually, I want to go as far as a sacred moment, but then I would retract it immediately. So here's the thing: if we separate choice from eating, we've missed the mark to begin with.
Hmm.
And it's connecting to hunger. That's the first point of really entering into hunger. I don't know, Andrew, have you noticed that hunger is an extremely pleasant sensation?
I would say that I could answer yes in some aspects,
Mm,
but
brilliant.
there's, for me, I think one of the things I've really been recognizing too is there's a big difference between kind of this desire. Um, I would almost say like impulsive desire, which is one thing, versus just hunger. Like if I really truly feel hungry, which is like especially after a great workout, you guys have probably experienced this maybe, like where you have like a really busy day, you're out in the yard working super hard, and you get to that end of the busy day, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, and that I do actually think feels good. Like I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to
Ah,
eat now.
it's
But there's a really
yes,
different,
like
yeah, there's a really different feeling versus this impulsive, just
ah.
desire for food, I guess.
So here's the fascinating part. The moment we do fooding, we eat from hunger, there's this sense of rightness, right?
Hmm.
There's
Okay.
this sense of this is good,
Yeah.
you know. But the moment you eat on impulse, that's fascinating. Hunger isn't an impulse.
Hmm.
Hunger is this onset of I'm needing fuel, I'm needing nutrients, I'm wanting pleasure, relaxation, connection to self. Whereas an impulse is the sense of, oh, I am not getting out of this
Yeah.
email what I need to just put something in my mouth.
Right.
Is that hunger? Ah,
No.
that's frustration.
Yeah.
It,
Anxiety,
me- it,
frustration.
so here's the problem. Because this little serotonin pump is so efficient, we start using it as a facilitator to manage the difficult emotions and situations of life. And it works. In the moment, it
Hmm.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting
So,
lots of response that's
yeah.
kind of like right on. Like, Jamie's saying food for fuel, which is what you're saying. Sean's kind of confirming that same thing, bad habit of eating based on impulse versus actual
Mm,
hunger. And Jennifer mentioned, that yeah, when you kind of worked for
yeah.
it and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is real hunger, it has
Yeah.
that sensation of satisfying. And one of
Mm,
the things that's interesting too is, so the energetics program is heavily tied, of course, to the multiple brain integration techniques that
that's
that
it.
we teach. And the gut brain, which is of course very heavily linked to our eating. um
No,
what we know. No, not at all.
plays a
But
minor role,
yeah,
a
just a
minor
little.
little.
But what we know too is that when we eat it, and I'm actually kind of recognizing something, Jan, and you tell me if I'm on with this. But if we're
Mm,
eating in a healthy respect, which is like actually feeding ourselves, giving ourselves fuel, we're eating for the right reasons because we're actually hungry. That puts us into that parasympathetic, that like
ah,
kind of just
ah,
relaxed
that
sensation. Hmm.
the parasympathetic, that resting, eating
Yeah.
from rest. Ah, love
So
it.
I would assume then, I'm just kind of making this connection. If we're eating from that impulsive state, I don't find that I get that same sensation. So is that triggered differently?
Yes, an impulse, right,
Hmm.
is a burst of energy. Is that parasympathetic?
No, that's.
Parasympathetic, that's sympathetic.
Hmm.
That
So
is
and
fight and flight mode. That is
right,
guys, we're not wolfing down a deer carcass raw. It's not
well, maybe
we're
you aren't.
not
Have you seen where I live? I live in the country, bro. I've got like a whole pack of deer that just walk
of
through my
deer.
yard.
So we've just gotten a brilliant insight into Andrew's extramural activities. So, but here's the thing: for human beings, if we eat from a sense of hunger and connection to our bodies, I saw a beautiful thing from Dot Carrigan, which she said, "We have forgotten how to listen to our bodies," and I
Hmm.
fully agree. Dot, it's the moment we start listening to our bodies, we start eating from hunger. We start eating from that parasympathetic sense, sense of control, sense of I am okay, and we enjoy food a lot more. But we actually are faced with a very fascinating fact, you require much less than you actually need. This was one of my biggest revelations during the energetics process, eating from total choice, not eating stuff because people say it's good. I eat because I choose to eat. It's what I want right now. And what's fascinating is my cravings started shifting towards the healthy stuff. Why? Because I chose it. It wasn't enforced on me. I was eating from the gut. I wasn't eating from science journals and going crazy.
Right.
And I was surprised. My portion sizes nearly halved, and I was very satisfied. So when I started realizing this, I couldn't um, place my finger on why would I require these huge portion sizes. And upon reflection, connecting to hunger, eating when hungry, choosing my food because I want to, a revelation struck, and it was quite a heavy one. It boiled up out of my toes right through my entire body, and I was hit with, I don't need to buffer myself anymore. I can let go of the extra storage. We don't refer to fat as fat in the energetics. It's got this weird connotation of aesthetically unpleasing and disturbing. We call it storage because it's exactly what it is. It's stored energy. And I had this extremely deep sense of, I can really let go. I'm okay. I don't require to buffer. I don't require all this storage. And it dropped. It really dropped in the sense of my body size went from, I think I wore a 38
Should I show them the
waist. Yeah, show them, please. That's not me, so by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. There I are.
Yeah, so you can see the dramatic shift for Jan. And what a cool, like, I love the way you put that, man, because I think that's such a, even for myself, like, that's such a significant mind shift. And it kind of makes me wonder if I'm almost kind of doing some of the same, because like I told you, like, I don't tend to put on weight necessarily when I overeat, but I don't feel good. And I wonder if there's that, like, and I think some of it also does have to do a bit with what Amy kind of said here too. It's a control thing. Can't control what's going on around us, so we just reach for something we can control.
Come on. Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of in the same vein almost. It's just like, hey, well, I've got this food in front of me, like, I don't know what's going to happen next, so there's almost this, like, sort of primal sense of, like, I better eat this all to store up the fat, store up the reserves, because so I love this kind of stuff, because it just makes my head start to just spin, like, wow, what a cool realization. And something that no diet plan on the planet that I've ever heard of would actually have that conversation with you, like, hey, you don't have to store this anymore, you don't have to hold on to it anymore. Well, that's so powerful.
You can let go. You can let go. And cool. I love Mrs. Frost. Is that correct? Yeah. We should think of food as more like a kind of medicine, right? Here's the thing. I totally agree with that, because the moment I connected with hunger and became accustomed to eat hunger-led, I had to concede that I have to rest a lot more. I was just way out there in the world trying to change everything, and hunger called me back to, hey buddy, you've expended energy. Let's just spend some quality time on me. And when I got that correct, the cravings started to shift. There was this weird instance where my wife would call me and she would ask me, so what do you want to eat tonight? You know, the question every husband faces. What do you want to eat tonight? You're like, I have no idea what we have in the fridge. um,
That's
and
a trap.
it is a trap. It is a freaking trap. You know, it's like, I would like some corn, please. Oh no, we don't have corn. Okay, well then. And I can remember sitting there and going, okay, you know what? Let's really connect with hunger before I answer her.
Mhm.
And out of the blue, it shot up. I want lentils and beans for the next 3 days, please. And she had this stunned silence of, what? You've never eaten? No, I don't think we have that in the house even. And I said, go out, buy it, please. I need it. And lo and behold, I am lentil and bean crazy. I can't get enough of the stuff.
Wow.
And upon doing proper research and talking to people, like, you know, proper, and also speaking to dietitians, they said, well, buddy, you probably hit the nail on the head there in terms of what your body needs. You know, your B vitamins and that type of stuff.
Mhm.
Do you have an iron deficiency? And I said, I have absolutely no idea.
Mhm.
And it turned into this wonderful conversation of discovery where I realized, but if I don't eat enough legumes, I tend to lose a lot of zest and energy.
Hmm.
And it has a direct a correlation with what my body needs and how my body functions. And it was intuitively led, and I had this very clear message from the gut brain: lentils and beans,
Yeah.
legumes, get the stuff in. And I must tell you, it's been incorporated into my diet without any fuss or worry, because it was based on choice.
Yeah.
It was based on free choice, connecting to hunger, connecting to the gut, and listening to my body.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. So, and craving kind of is something that has tended to pop up in the comments a little bit too. So how do we differentiate between something that is kind of more of an intuitive hit on, hey, here's what the body needs, versus craving?
I need the whole, most people, most of my clients that come to me is like, Jan, I crave sweets. I want sweets. And I'm going to say something quite unsettling. And please just humor me.
Yeah, of course.
So
That's
the
why you're
first
here,
thing
man.
that
I want the different perspective.
So I crave sweets, but I'm not allowed to have sweets. So I said, eat sweets to your heart's content, please. Go for it.
All my
But
dietitian friends just like
yeah,
had an
just
aneurysm.
chill.
I know.
I realize it. But don't misunderstand me. The amount of sugar in our diet is not ideal. On the contrary, but we are stuck with people that crave sugar in massive amounts, and it turns into the psychological battle, right? So, and eat all the sugar to your heart's content. Fascinating that I would use the heart's content. That's a little bit of inbraining going on there. But what usually happens is they would pig out on sugar, sweets, chocolates, buttercups. That's a flour, right? Also, anyway, nonetheless, cups full of sugary butter, and there would be that point of going, oh, I can't do this anymore. Exactly. We need to give the body that saturation point where they go, this is not what I want, actually. I want something else. So I give them one point of contact. Eat all the sugar and spices and everything nice that you can. But I want to challenge you. Eat it when you are fully hungry and present in your body. Check what your body does with that amount of sugar. Check what it does to you. We need to work the cravings the other way around and add choice to it. The moment we add choice back into the mixture, people make better fooding decisions.
Hmm. That was, I mean, honestly, we can just end the broadcast with that. That was epic, because that, oh God, that makes so much sense, man. Like, the fact that, because yeah, if I'm actually hungry and I'm conscious, and it's not compulsion driving me towards
That's it.
that, I'm probably not going to go down and open the fridge and eat 10 pounds of cake. Like, if it's actual true hunger and I'm listening to what my body wants, yeah, like, that's interesting. And that actually makes a lot of sense even to me with, like, when I was talking about workouts, because like if I'm exercising really regularly, when I make my food choices, they tend to be better food choices. And in my head, I was just, like, my analytical brain goes, oh, it's just because you're in a more healthy mindset. And actually, it's not probably that. It's that I have true hunger. So my intuitive wants and cravings are things that actually are going to feed me. That's so interesting, dude. Love that.
You see, the moment we connect to hunger, eating becomes a sacred moment because it's separate from the hustle and bustle and running around and the stress and the strain of life. So the moment it becomes sacred, we attach a sense of quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you add choice to that, people have this fascinating sense of going, wait a minute, I'm actually worth feeding myself. I am worth feeding myself quality stuff. It's not a facilitator to help me through sadness, to help me through loss, to help me grieve, to help me facilitate frustration. It's not food isn't this facilitator of uncomfortable emotions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It turns into a sacred moment of you saying, I am worth it to exist. Therefore, I feed myself quality.
That's so cool. One of the things that Kelly was asking, just kind of from a nutrient sense, I mean, as far as like with the energetics program, I know you said that like they don't necessarily initially focus so much on, okay, these are the kinds of foods you should eat, shouldn't eat, but is there kind of a perception as far as like food quality and nutrient quality?
So I'm gonna put something out there. Taste is a critical component for human for human consumption of food, probably for other animals as well, but I don't know. I'm not another animal, so I'm guessing. But the fact that we associate taste with foods and the quality of foods is actually quite important. Your taste buds do not stop. The chemical receptor part of the taste buds don't stop just in your mouth. They extend your entire gut through.
Mm-hmm.
I have eaten carrots, and to chews into the carrot, I spit it out. I go, I can't eat this junk. I can't do this. It tastes like The cardboard, there's nothing there, and there's a repulsion attached to it.
Huh.
So I sought out proper carrots from a local farmer's market near our house, and there was a little bit of experimentation of, does this work? Will this work? And when I bit into that carrot, I realized I want this. This is freaking brilliant.
Quality.
And it's quality. And I qualitied through it 2 carrots into the meal. I was satisfied. I was done. So I suspect, so I didn't catch the name of the lady's comment that you put up just previously.
Kelly.
Kelly. Sorry, Callie.
Don't you start.
Well, at least you're not going to buy a donkey. So we'll inform you about buying donkeys. Kelly, I suspect yes. I suspect that that the nutrient deficient component to food will probably guide us to either eat more or preferably do research, understand how the food got to your table, understand the chain and the production chain that led to it being in your fridge or wherever you ate the carrot, or for argument's sake, and start understanding how the food was produced. Was it pulled out of the ground too quickly? That type of stuff, because you do become highly sensitive to. But do I like this? Is this working for me? Quite frankly, the moment it clicked to me that eating is a sacred moment. If I don't enjoy a peach, I don't push through and eat it because there are hungry children in Africa. The reasoning doesn't make sense to me. If eating is sacred, then it has to be a quality interaction between me and that which I'm feeding my body. And I'm not making light hunger and starvation in countries, and I'm not harping on that. On the contrary, but you don't power through with food purely for the sake of just powering through. It's a quality interaction.
That's cool. I like this comment too from our friend Ms. Frost. Just and even with that, kind of like that quality factor, because like for me, so like I said before, chocolate tends to be the thing that I kind of tend to crave, and when I do buy high quality stuff that isn't just loaded with manufactured cheap sugar. Like I have these chocolate chips downstairs it's a dark chocolate chip. They're sweetened with stevia. It's organic cocoa. And so Michelle and I, we have a little dish about probably that big around and probably only about that deep. And we'll put cashews and those little chocolate chips in there, and we'll share that little dish. And by the time we're done with that tiny little dish of just some chocolate chips and cashews, because it's quality, it's organic, it's not loaded with a bunch of crap, we're good. We're like, that was a delicious little treat. Or I made like chocolate chia pudding last night, and kind of same thing. Just it was only like 4 or 5 spoonfuls, and I was like, that totally satisfied that sense of craving. But it was because I think it was quality. It was good stuff. And so even when I think we almost label treats as just junk food in general, and that I don't know that that's true necessarily.
So here's the thing. There is only food, right? There is food. We label junk food because we took a look scientifically at what happens to the human body when we engage with these foods in copious amounts and in addictive mindsets, and with a sense of total loss of control, and trying to take control of our lives, which is spiraling out of control. Hello, COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
It really is destructive. It turns into this horrible feedback loop. So by merely saying, please leave the hamburger, it is bad for you, doesn't necessarily change behavior.
Right.
That's the problem with humans, isn't it? We
Mm-hmm.
can hear every single ounce of research that smoking is horrible for you.
Seriously.
And people just, they cognitive dissonance themselves out of it. They either
Mm-hmm.
ignore it, or they trivialize it, or they go, well, well, I'll maybe be the happy statistic that actually does make it to 85 while smoking. And we because the problem is we feel like we don't have a choice. The moment I add choice back, people have handles on the situation. And seriously, the moment you give choice back, and you really start connecting with your body, and like, what does refined sugar do to me? How do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you eat gut led and from hunger with total choice, I'm serious. People make brilliant choices. We saw it in our little daughter. She's 4 years old, so she doesn't completely understand that broccoli is a better food choice than, say, speckled egg, chocolate, smarty thingies. And so we allow her both. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
we said, "What do you want to choose?" Guess what started happening the moment we added choice into the mix?
Hmm.
She started choosing broccoli
No kidding.
on her own. On her own. I'm
Interesting.
serious. I'm serious.
Because you didn't
But
say like, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. No, you can't have
and it sounds like a fairy tale. It's like, Jan, you're lying. I am.
that.
I'm
You're not a liar.
serious. I I lie not.
No.
She asked the other night, we made like broccoli burger thingies with a little bit of kimchi on it, and she dove into the broccoli because she said it tastes, it makes her tummy feel happy. But we as parents had to navigate the tension of giving her the choice.
That would be hard.
And it's horrifying to think that a toddler is able to listen to their own body. It's impossible.
They're probably actually more well equipped to listen to their body. So interesting. So, okay. I God, I could just pick your brain for hours on this, because this is such a, we're gonna have to like do another one where we
Can,
focus on some other aspects. But here's what I'd love to kind of switch gears on just a little bit, because I think the big question that everyone always has then is, okay, so how do I make these choices? Do you have some like kind of practical suggestions on, especially right now, because like our friend Sonia, she mentioned that like she's stuck at home with the COVID, so there's, certain foods in the house, like, a lot of us are maybe kind of afraid to even go out to the grocery store right now. So, you know, even especially with the limitations that we're experiencing now, I think that if you had a couple practical suggestions on how to make sort of like our best possible choices right now,
yeah.
do you have something that you can offer us?
Yeah. So the first point of contact with reality is, I got it from The Road Less Traveled by the author Scott Peck. Love the guy. He opens his book with, life is difficult. The sooner we accept this reality, the sooner we can transcend it. It's tough for everyone. So the moment you accept that, you can start working with reality of going, it is tough. I don't have all the choices available to me pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the freedoms just at luxury. What I do have is a sense of, fine, if I only have Easter eggs and chocolates in my house currently, then I want to challenge you. Use the reality you work with the reality that you have. Eat to your heart's content when you are hungry. Take control by choosing to eat from hunger. And you know, Andrew, that it sounds extremely weird, but I've worked with clients that said, okay, so so must I just stop eating until I feel hungry? I said, yes, that's kind of how this works.
Okay.
It'll happen. It's kind of automatic. It's like breathing.
Huh.
There were clients that did not experience hunger for a full 2 days. Because they had lost that connection to their body. They had, in fact, I have working with clients where they said, I don't know what it feels like to feel hunger. They've lost total choice from eating and access to eating from hunger. So that's the first thing, is determine whether you're eating from hunger or whether you're eating to facilitate frustration, sadness, anxiety, panic, whatever, whatever the case may be. So, Jan, what do I do if I have this impulsive drive to eat, but I know I'm not hungry? You know what is a fascinating thing? Movement. Move. Put on a YouTube video and shake your body to some form of exercise. Do something. Movement helps us overcome and govern the sense of panic and anxiety. Wash the dishes. Move. Do something. You will actually come to a stark realization how infrequently you actually experience true hunger. With the moment we add movement into the mix, we realize that a lot of the times people facilitate movement, a need to get up and walk around or do something else, by chewing. And they go for the crunchy stuff, eh?
Yeah, totally.
It's that, oh, okay, I'm moving. Really?
So interesting.
When people experience sadness, loss, a sense of separation, the whole social isolation dynamic, we tend to gravitate towards sweet stuff because it really does soothe. So my question then to clients would be, especially the more emotionally inclined clients are, I'm beginning to experience hunger, but there's this craving for jelly babies or sweets or whatever. And then I would say, well, fantastic, eat them when you're hungry. But I want to challenge you. Is there an uncomfortable emotion that you probably need to feel right now? Is there some loss that we need to acknowledge and work through? Is there a sense of helplessness that can be overcome by connecting with others, making that phone call, addressing that relationship that hungers for nurturing? Here's the thing, Andrew. The moment we start removing the storage, we make full contact with the difficulties of life. It really is easier to haze it over with food.
Yeah.
That's why so many people do it.
I can definitely say that, like, especially if you guys are seeing me in my office right here, and if I'm working on something that gets really tough or it gets challenging, or even if it gets boring, my first reaction is, I'm going to go down to the refrigerator. And it's just an avoidance process. It's just me not wanting to take that next step forward into the uncomfortable, or take that next step forward into something that's not pleasurable for me. So makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
right? That whole sense of, because eating is pleasurable, I use it as a facilitator to tackle that which is not pleasurable.
Yeah.
But it makes intuitive sense when you hear it like that, right?
Right.
So my question is, what other habits are you willing to relearn to tackle unpleasant stuff? Because you've had to tackle quite a lot of unpleasant stuff to get where you are right now.
Mm-hmm. So, as far as, I guess, like the question of specific foods, then your response, I would assume, is that we have to use our intuition.
What does your body want? Eating from hunger. What does the body want?
Hmm.
Guys, I've had weird cravings. Like I said, lentils and legumes.
Mm-hmm.
I've had cravings for mushrooms, and a very specific sort of mushroom. I've had craving. I've had anti cravings to pasta, where my wife would make pasta, and 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 I would go, honey, I can't. I just can't do this right now. So instead of it turning into a marriage wrecking argumentation, we both buy into the whole thing of body led eating.
Mm-hmm.
Zinta actually asked a brilliant thing. So, how often do you get cravings, if at all? It really, really depends. Most of the time, the cravings are quite natural. I get a very body led sense of, I'm hungry, and what would I love? I would love beetroot right now. And so we try and stock up on the stuff that we've um, um, come to realize. Okay, Jan prefers this stuff, and Carla, my wife, prefers that stuff, and so it really. And it's tough, guys. It's really tough. It goes against the grain of so much that we've been taught about the right way of eating. Sometimes we eat two different dishes because we want to,
Mm-hmm.
because we respect each other, and we give each other's bodies the right to communicate what it wants, right?
Yep.
Sometimes if I'm sick, my appetite and metabolism goes, or if I'm feeling down or whatever. And then I am willing to sit with my wife, and she eats a meal, and I participate in the communion, or in the community and the fellowship, and just chatting with her, but I don't necessarily need to eat because I'm not hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that need to be an intimidating thought?
Interesting. Because it's not how we were brought up. That's it.
Because you're selfish if you don't eat the food that is
Mm-hmm.
offered to you, or there's horribly something wrong.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question, Jan, and we're going to have to close up here pretty soon, but this did come up, and I've actually experienced this, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, when I wasn't kind of I don't want to say as in control of my fear, but I was definitely experiencing the fear response much more. And I didn't find that I was getting hungry very often. It was pretty few and far between. And, my wife would be like, I'm starving. We got to have dinner. I'm like, okay, I'll make something. And so I'd kind of like sit down and maybe eat a few bites, but I was like, I'm just kind of eating because I feel like I'm supposed to.
So here's the fascinating part. If hunger invites us into wonderful parasympathetic relaxation, sitting down, being in the moment, fear is quite an intense sympathetic bodily response, and it keeps the hamster wheel going.
True.
When we are overly sympathetically driven, we struggle to swallow. Hey, it really it inhibits peristalsis. It shuts down the bodily organs. So we might actually be hungry in the normal sense of the word, but the sympathetic drive, fight or flight, anxiety, is keeping us from connecting to hunger. So one of the best things that I can tell people is allow space in your day to sit, do some balanced breathing, allow that sympathetic screech just to lower down so you are able to connect to your body. Many people, after doing balanced breathing, actually go, crap, I'm hungry. I didn't realize I'm hungry. And that's exactly what Samantha's question is. What if you don't want to eat all day, so you make yourself to eat?
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree. We need to eat for energy's sake as well. And eating is good. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
So Samantha, I would say to you, have you tried some balanced breathing, some relaxation techniques to get a sense of the moment we calm down, am I hungry and I am not actually connecting to my hunger because fear or anxiety or stress is so dominant in my life? That can also happen. Shirley, the lady that I mentioned, calls it, we need to own our hunger stop. So I'm satisfied, but some people need to own their start. They need to be able to acknowledge, I am hungry. I may exist. Yes, the world is falling apart, or seemingly so, but I will engage with food. Why? Because it's a good thing.
Hmm.
There is still some good in the world.
That's cool. And that's probably even a mental shift that a lot of us have to work on, is kind of going back to some of the things that you very first said today, which is that we're taught that, I mean, what isn't bad at this point? You know, don't eat this, don't eat this. Oh, just kidding, kale's terrible for you. Don't eat kale. You know, it's like, what
Uh,
the hell? What can I eat? Like, what is good for me? And so I think for some, it probably is almost a little bit of a battle of getting back to our belief that putting food in my mouth is actually a great thing. Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, it's tough. Because I think part of your point too is that there's emotional and mental things that are going to greatly affect our relationship with food, and those are going to be just as important for us to kind of face and manage as the food choice
Exactly.
itself.
Guys, we've made eating complicated. Eating isn't complicated. It's the most natural thing in the world. The world is complicated. Life is difficult. We need to get the order right.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, Jan, thank you so much for everything that you shared today. I mean, I definitely learned a ton, and I just based on the quite a few hundred comments that we have in here, I think a lot of people had a good time listening and being a part of this conversation. Here's the thing, guys: is like, as you know, this video will post to our Facebook and to our YouTube feed directly after. So if you didn't get to hear the beginning, you can always come back and re-listen. Jan, there is some questions that we're just not going to get to. If you
Mm.
have some time over the next couple of days, if you wouldn't mind maybe coming back to the post, and if you have some feedback for some people or some responses that you could offer, I know they'd definitely appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much for being here with me. If you want to connect with Jan, you can also go to the description in the box for the video, and I've left the link to his website. Is that the best way for them to contact you?
It's a brilliant way. Also got a Facebook page,
Okay,
Rescript Coaching. You can connect with me there. Yeah, more than welcome.
beautiful. Well, thanks, my friend, and thank you guys all for joining us today. And we'll see you next Friday. I have my friend Drea Hemmer, who is actually, you guys are going to love this girl. She is a blast. She's a salon owner, but but she's also a CIQ coach. CIQ is conversational intelligence. Kind of going back to the principle of what this whole project is about is we want to help to support you with things that we know you're probably going through right now, but will also serve you in the future. And especially during this time of quarantine, I know for a fact that communication sometimes can be tough. So Dre is going to help us out with some concepts on great communication. So please join us next Friday for that one. And yeah, thanks again, Jan. See y'all.
Thank you so much.
You can just stay on, Jan. We'll chat after this.